Okay, so thank you, Gavin, for that presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about integration with here, which is amazingly simple, and it's gotten so easy with just pure configuration. So I'm going to show you running that locally tonight with some apps that I built, and kind of then how it looks integrated into here. And in fact, I didn't actually do any here integration. I sent Gavin my JSON files that I'm using on Workspace, and then he emails me this video back and says, yep, boom, everything worked, didn't change a thing. So it was pretty cool how that whole thing came together. But anyway, my name is Jason Beres. I'm with a company called Infragistics. This is our 35th year anniversary this year. Financial services is a big part of our business. For the longest time, we were UI components, so charts, grids, things like that you would use in WPF Windows Forms, JavaScript, React, Angular, Blazor, whatever. Tonight, I'm going to show a little bit of a low-code tool that we have now, which fits nicely in with this story of integration with here, with micro apps, as well as another product we have called Reveal, which is a self-service BI embedded SDK. And I'm just going to touch on that because I used it in here, which was amazing. Everything just kind of worked. I didn't have to do anything any different than I would have building something locally. So the idea is using these products can really accelerate your app development, and that's my goal tonight, is to show you how that can happen. The big word of low code, no code that everyone's heard about over the last few years, Gartner's saying by 2025, 70% of enterprise apps will be built using low code. So if you're not doing low code now, you will be, and you might be doing low code and not even know it, right? So even something like here where you're just pounding in configuration files, it's a low code experience. You're not having to build that container, that 3-month to 12-month build time to get something up, running, and deployed. So App Builder, what I'm going to talk about tonight, is a WYSIWYG drag and drop tool. The key thing that we like to say for App Builder versus other low-code tools is that we generate production-ready code. So everything that you see will generate Angular, Blazor, React, or web component code, just deploys to GitHub, and that frees you from like vendor lock-in because anything you design just ends up being hosted as source code. And it really does cut down on your time to market, your time to build, et cetera. You can look at it as an end-to-end solution, or you can look at it as a starter. It really doesn't matter. But what you're going to see tonight is sort of this process from starting in one spot and then ending up in here in the enterprise browser and locally running on Workspace. So Figma, our App Builder product, integrates with Figma. So you can design something in Figma, import it into App Builder, and magic happens, and you have an app, and then code comes out the other end. That's optional, though. You don't need to use Figma. However, with App Builder, essentially it is a WYSIWYG drag and drop. If you're using Figma, you can continue to refine and develop your application, or you can just start an App Builder, start dragging and dropping, data binding, routing, navigation, validation, all the stuff you need in an application. The cool thing is tonight what I'm going to show you is our SaaS version of this product, but we also have a container on-prem version that you can deploy on-prem, but we're introducing now an embedded version of it. So you can actually have a low-code SDK in your application and deliver low-code to your customers. So imagine like you're all sitting there trying to build something where your end users or your dev teams are, have a preset templates or themes or components they can use, and you don't want to write all this code. Well, you can do that with our SDK now. So teams can use App Builder to do that. Once you're in App Builder, you do all your stuff, hit a generate code button, it goes to GitHub. From GitHub, of course, it's very simple to deploy to Azure. And then what I did, in this case, for locally, I just used my JSON configuration. I'm running my apps within Workspace, or like I said, I sent them over to Gavin, and he dumped it into here, and it worked perfectly. And I'm going to show you all that right now in a demo. So the way I'm going to start this is just because the Figma to code is actually pretty cool. This is an application, if I make it a little bit smaller, we'll do like 50% here, that is a typical, I have a list of stocks and I have a chart and it's changing, you click things and things change. Well, this is Figma. So if you're not familiar with Figma, WYSIWYG design tool, You select things, you have properties on the right. But the nice thing is that using our UI kit, which matches to components, you can build out real applications and then get real code. So we have a plugin here. I'm going to use our plugin. I'm going to create a new app. I happen to be logged into App Builder. I'm going to put this in my Fin.js 2024 London workspace, and I'm just going to click Create App. So what this is doing is it's taking this Figma file to the cloud, it's parsing it, and then it's generating a version of it in our common application model, which then maps to our components, which then, of course, allows me to get React code if I want, or Angular code, or whatever the heck I want. So now it says my app is ready. Here's my link to preview. I'm just going to go ahead and edit this in App Builder. I'm already logged into App Builder. I have an account. This account, my name is Miriam Graham. So Miriam is in App Builder. So now what you see is an actual application with real components. So when I select these objects, and in fact, if we make this a little bit bigger, you'll see that it looks exactly like it did inside of Figma. So I have my list on the left-hand side. This is actually a list component. Over here I have a chart component, and I have a bunch of these things that I want to then now bind data to. Well, to bind data, I have all of my data in REST APIs. It's up in Azure. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I would go through and I would select this. I would select data, and I would tell it what API I wanted to use. In this case, I would say, well, use my FinData API. I want to use my stocks list, and then I would just start binding to items in there, like the stock symbol or maybe the company name. So I already did that in an application here. So I've got my Fin.js trader, which I did all of that work for. And what's nice about this is same thing. It's the only difference is I've bound to data and I've added a few more screens. But if I run this guy, what you get with App Builder is actually your running application. So here I'm selecting items. It's kind of squished because I'm showing code here. But if I click on this button, it's actually navigating to a dashboard that's in the cloud. This dashboard is editable. It's full self-service BI. But what you'll notice here on the right-hand side is code. So based on what page I'm on, so let's say, for example, I'm on my main page where I have this list, this would be all of the React code for that. If I'm doing Angular and I'm doing standalone components, this is what the code is for Angular standalone components. What do I do with this code? Well, I want to publish it to GitHub. So I went through this exercise of publishing this to GitHub, and I end up with something that is a real app running from the cloud, using those APIs, using those same exact interactions that I had inside of the low-code tool. So far I haven't written any code. I've sort of done some drag and drop, some WYSIWYG, set some data binding, and actually in this case I just uploaded it to App Builder. But what I really wanted to do was turn this whole monolithic application into pieces, into micro apps that I can use in here, because that's the goal. I don't want to have these big honking apps that have all this stuff in it, millions of lines of code. I want to break this up. So what I did do in App Builder is I just started copying and pasting things out of this application, and I created some new apps. So if we look here at my Fin.js 2024 London workspace, I have a broker picker, I have a stock chart, I have a stock grid, and some other things here. So if I jump in and edit my stock chart, it's basically the same thing that we saw in the big app. What I did do is for my default view, I want it to be a light view. However, with App Builder, you can do all kinds of custom theming and branding and whatnot. But in this case, I just did the same exact copy-paste, created a new application. I published it over to GitHub. Actually, this is saying it's already linked to a repository using Angular modules. I'm using Angular standalone here. But anyway, I just want to go view this on GitHub. So what this actually does is when you push this to GitHub, it generates the entire application. So if I look at this, you'll see I have all of my services. So these are the web APIs that I'm using, all of my endpoints in Azure. If I look at my master view, this is the code that's actually waiting for something to display inside of that particular chart. So all this code was generated. It's production ready. It's not spaghetti code. It's all good stuff. And ultimately what I did is I took all of those micro apps. I created a a resource in Azure, so I deployed them all to Azure just through actions, right? So I went from app builder to GitHub, and then Azure, you say create a static web app, and now I've deployed everything out to Azure. So I've got my broker dashboard, my broker picker, my stock chart. So if I go here, this is running at lemon, mushroom, whatever. I click it, there's my stock chart. So this is all running real time in Azure. And Gavin's screen, I'm assuming, I don't know exactly what he did, but that URL text box that he had, that's where you paste in the URL, and that would be this app here. So what does this actually look like? So running on my workspace locally, I have my grid here, and you'll see that my grid, these are two different micro apps. Like if I move this around or do whatever inside of workspace for OpenFin, hit Control Space. This is my IG stock grid and my IG stock chart. So these two are using signals to wait for a stock item, and that stock item is getting a web API, and now it's displaying inside my chart. So super easy, super simple. And then the other two apps that I had was a people picker or a broker picker, and then a dashboard. So in this case, I've got this list of all of my brokers. So this was something I'd built in App Builder. And what I did was I said, hey, send out the broker ID, and if this dashboard happens to be running in a widget, then go ahead and change the dashboard based on this broker. So you can see as I'm selecting a broker, I click the Analyze button, this guy shows up. And I mentioned that reveal product here. If I jump into this is a full now editable dashboard. I can WYSIWYG my way into something more interesting, drag company, well, that was earnings. We already had earnings. Well, I guess we can drag earnings. It's maybe not great for visualizations. Maybe I want to change this to look a little better. We'll use large number formatting. We'll update this, and that's it. I can continue to do some self-service stuff here. I update this dashboard, that updated in the cloud, and boom, all of it is updated for every one of the people that I'm trying to look at. So these are 4 apps all running inside of Workspace locally. And the neat thing is I mentioned our embedded version of this. So you saw the SaaS app where I had my applications and they were in these little boxes. Well, now this is all running on localhost. So if I go back to my homepage, I have my experiences, I have my Fin.js London entry point. I'm going to create a new workspace. We'll just call this testing. But the cool thing about this is if you're using this as an embedded SDK, you have control over every aspect of the application. So you'll notice here I have my own starter. So imagine if you could give your users all of the allowed UI patterns already in templates that are in a low-code tool, so when they click something to open it up, it's already ready to go. It's bound to data. It has the correct theme. It has all the stuff that matters to your governance in your dev organization. So this just kicked up a template. These are the themes that are available. Every aspect of this can be customized, even the WYSIWYG drag and drop. And in fact, if I just delete that grid and I search for a grid here, I'll do a different grid, and that binds to no data because I have nothing selected. But let's go and grab our fin data. We'll grab our stocks, and now I've just bound to that stock data. And then the nice thing here is if I want to publish this to GitHub, remember, this is running locally in my app. So if we look at what this looks like here, I'll look at this guy here. It's just a single component. I just have defined my app builder, and then everything I do is through configuration here on what's allowed, what's not allowed, et cetera. So anyway, I did all that in my SaaS version. I did a little bit in my on-prem version, created my apps, deployed them to Workspace locally. My configuration files are very straightforward. As you would expect, I have a chart view, a dashboard view, a grid view. These are all of my URLs up in the cloud. I zipped this up, I sent it to Gavin, and I said, hey, can you get this going in Enterprise Browser? So next day, he sends me this video, and he took my configuration, just used those apps all running in Azure, added it to the Here Enterprise Browser, and then this is the result. with 0 code changes, with nothing different. I mean, the theme is dark and light, so that's the only difference. But you can see this is what he was showing earlier, and he put them in the super tab, and then he put them side by side, and everything just worked. So he selected a stock, and the chart updated just like it should. So that's all I have for today. I'm over on time, but I want to thank everyone. If you want to learn more about any of what Infragistics is doing with low code, with embedded BI, come visit Phil and I downstairs. Our URLs here are appbuilder.dev, revealbi.io, and thanks everyone for listening.